What if the greatest secrets of humanity were not lost, but deliberately hidden beneath the heart of the Vatican? Welcome to Mythical Lullabies. Tonight, we slip through the shadowed corridors of the Vatican's secret archives, where forbidden texts whisper truths too dangerous for daylight. Picture yourself standing before a massive stone door, its surface carved with Latin warnings that prickle your skin. The air is thick with dust and the faint scent of ancient ink. You push the door and it groans, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Your flashlight flickers because of course it does. Batteries never survive these kinds
of adventures. You probably won't survive this either, not with the secrets you're about to uncover.
So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're listening from as we dive into this mystery. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first step down the staircase, each creak echoing like a warning. The walls are damp, slick with centuries of secrecy. You're not supposed to be here. No one is. The Vatican archives, officially called the Archivum Secretum, are real, housing over 50 miles of shelves with documents dating back to the 8th century. But you're not here for papal letters or dusty ledgers. You're chasing rumors of a deeper vault, one not even the archivists acknowledge, a place where texts too heretical, too wild, were buried. Your heart thuds as you reach the bottom where a rusted iron gate blocks your path. The lock is ancient, but someone's been here recently. There's a fresh scratch on the metal, like a thief got sloppy. You fumble with the gate, and it swings open with a screech that makes you wince. Beyond it, shelves stretch into the gloom, packed with scrolls, codices, and tablets. The air feels heavy, like the weight of 1,000 untold stories. You run your fingers along a shelf, stirring dust that dances in your flashlight's beam. A leather-bound volume catches your eye, its cover embossed with a serpent eating its own tail, an Ouroboros, a Greek symbol of eternity. You open it, and the pages crackle, revealing text in ancient Greek. It's not a Bible or a saint's diary. It's a myth, but not one you've heard in school. This is no tale of Zeus throwing lightning bolts or Hercules wrestling lions. It's something older, rawer, about gods who walked among mortals and taught them secrets the heavens didn't approve of. You flip a page and a phrase jumps out. The gods fear what they cannot control. Your stomach twists. This isn't just a story. It's a warning. Historians still argue whether the early church destroyed pagan texts or preserved them in secret. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, a real event, standardized Christian doctrine and condemned anything that didn't fit. But what if they didn't burn every heretical scroll? What if they hid them here where no one could ask questions? You glance around, half expecting a monk to jump out and scold you. Instead, you spot a quirky detail, a tiny carving on the shelf, a stick-figure god with a comically oversized thunderbolt. Did some ancient scribe doodle this to mess with future snoops like you? You move deeper, the shelves closing in like a labyrinth. A faint hum vibrates through the stone floor. Not a fan, but something mechanical, maybe a hidden generator. The Vatican's not exactly known for transparency, so who knows what tech they've got down here? You find a clay tablet, its surface, etched with symbols that look half Greek, half something else. It's heavy, cold, and feels like it's watching you. Fringe scholars claim the Vatican hides text from lost civilizations like Atlantis or pre-flood societies.
Mainstream historians roll their eyes, but you're holding something that doesn't fit in a textbook. You trace the symbols, and a chill runs through you. This isn't just a library, it's a prison for ideas too dangerous to breathe. You
slip the tablet back, heart racing. The myths here aren't just stories, they're keys to something bigger, something the church didn't want anyone to unlock. You spot a narrow tunnel ahead, barely wide enough for you to squeeze through. It's pitch black, and your flashlight's starting to strobe like it's auditioning for a horror flick. You take a breath, because turning back isn't an option. Not when you're this close to truths that could rewrite history or get you excommunicated. You smirk, imagining telling your friends you got kicked out of the afterlife for snooping. The tunnel beckons, and you step forward, ready to see what's next. You squeeze through the narrow tunnel, the walls brushing your shoulders like they're trying to hold you back. The air's colder now, sharp with the musty tang of ancient paper and something metallic, like old blood. Your flashlight sputters, casting jagged shadows that make every crack in the stone look like a grinning face. You're deep beneath the Vatican, chasing whispers of forbidden Greek myths buried in a secret library. Remember that Ouroboros symbol from the last shelf? It's carved into the tunnel wall now, fainter, like someone tried to scratch it out. You press on because turning back feels like betraying the stories waiting for you. The tunnel opens into a chamber smaller than the last, but packed with scrolls stuffed into alcoves like forgotten love letters. Dust swirls as you step inside, and you sneeze, half expecting the noise to summon a ghostly librarian. You grab a scroll, it's papyrus, brittle under your fingers. It's written in Koine Greek, the language of the New Testament, but this isn't scripture. It's a story about a goddess named Irene, not the peacebringer you read about in high school, but a rebel who taught mortals to defy the Olympians. The text describes her weaving starlight into a cloak that hid her followers from Zeus's
wrath. You pause, picturing her stitching constellations in some cosmic sweatshop. Bet she didn't get paid overtime. You unroll more of the scroll and it gets weirder. Irene's followers built a city, cryptos, hidden beneath a mountain.
They worshipped her not as a deity but as a teacher who shared divine secrets. The story claims Zeus struck Kryptos with a bolt so fierce it sank the city into the earth. Historians still argue whether myths like this were pure fiction or veiled accounts of real places. The Library of Alexandria, burned in 48 BCE by Julius, Caesar's troops, a real event, lost countless Greek texts that might have backed this up. But here you are, holding a scroll that feels like it could rewrite the map. You spot a quirky detail, a margin note in faded ink, written in Latin saying, "This goddess sounds like my ex." Some medieval monk had a sense of humor, apparently. You smirk, but the humor fades as you read on. The scroll mentions a ritual to summon Irene's spirit, involving a mirror and a chant under a full moon. Fringe types online would lose their minds over this. They're always claiming the Vatican hides occult secrets. You're not sure you buy it, but the words on the page make your skin prickle, like the scrolls daring you to try. You move to another alcove, pulling out a second scroll. This one's heavier, wrapped in linen that's somehow still soft. It tells of a hero, Lycaon, not the werewolf king from Ovid's tales, but a sailor who stole a shard of the moon to light his way through the underworld. The gods cursed him, to wander forever, his ship trapped in a sea of shadows. You picture him rowing through an endless Netflix queue of fog, muttering about bad Wi-Fi. The story's vivid, almost too vivid, like it's painting itself in your mind. You wonder if these myths were banned because they were too powerful, too tempting for mortals to chase. The chamber's walls are carved with scenes that match the scrolls. A goddess weaving starlight, a sailor clutching a glowing shard. The dual carvings are crude, like they were done in a hurry, but they feel alive, pulsing under your fingertips. You notice a faint glow from one alcove, tucked behind a pile of broken pottery. You dig through the shards, careful, because tetanus isn't on your bucket list, and find a tiny crystal, no bigger than your thumb. It's warm, faintly luminous, and etched with a symbol that matches the moon shard from Lycaon's story. You pocket it because who wouldn't, but now you feel watched, like the chamber's holding its breath. You glance at the scrolls again, realizing they're not just stories, they're instructions, maps, maybe even warnings. The Vatican didn't hide these texts to protect them, they hid them to control them. You're standing in a room full of ideas that could have changed the world or burned it down. The crystal in your pocket hums, or maybe that's your imagination. Either way, you're not alone anymore. Footsteps echo from the tunnel behind, you slow and deliberate. You freeze, heart hammering. Time to move, but where? Another passage yawns at the chamber's far end, darker than the last. You clutch the scroll and step toward it, ready for whatever's next, or at least pretending
You are.
You slip into the next passage, the scroll still clutched in your hand, its edges crumbling like a bad decision. The footsteps behind you fade, but the air feels heavier, like the darkness is pressing against your skin. You're deep under the Vatican, chasing forbidden Greek myths in a secret library that shouldn't exist. The crystal in your pocket, remember that glowing moon shard, pulses faintly, or maybe that's your pulse, hammering in your ears. The passage is narrow, the walls slick with damp stone that smells like forgotten promises. Your flashlight catches glints of mica, making the tunnel sparkle like a cheap disco ball. You half expect a minotaur to pop out, but all you hear is your own breathing, loud and unsteady. The passage widens into a vaulted chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. Iron sconces line the walls, holding torches that shouldn't be lit, but are their flames steady despite the stale air? You're not alone here. Figures move in the gloom, cloaked, silent, their faces hidden under hoods. These are the guardians of the Vatican's secrets, the keepers of the forbidden texts you've been snooping through. You duck behind a pillar, heart thudding like it's trying to escape. The guardians don't speak, but their presence is a warning. You're trespassing on sacred ground and not the forgive us our sins kind. You peek out, counting 5 of them. They're tending to a massive oak table piled with manuscripts, sorting them with gloved hands. One guardian lifts a scroll and you catch a glimpse of Greek script, another myth, maybe about a god who taught mortals to outsmart fate. The guardians move like they're in a trance, their cloaks brushing the floor with a sound like whispers. You wonder if they're monks, scholars, or something weirder. Fringe rumors swirl about a secret Vatican order, the Custodes Librorum, tasked with guarding texts too dangerous for the world. No proof, of course, but you're staring at what might be the real deal. You shift, and your shoe scuffs the floor. The guardians freeze. One turns, their hood angled toward you, and you swear their eyes glow like the crystal in your pocket. You hold your breath, praying they chalk it up to a rat. Historians still argue whether the Vatican's archives were ever guarded by more than locks and bureaucracy. The Index Librorum Prohibitorum, a real list of banned books from the 16th century, hints at the Church's obsession with controlling knowledge. But this feels older, like a ritual carved into the bones of the earth. The guardian turns back, and you exhale, your knees wobbly. You notice a quirky detail. One guardian's cloak has a tiny embroidered owl barely visible. Athena's symbol, maybe? A Greek goddess in the Vatican's basement is the kind of irony that deserves a sitcom. You smirk, but the humor doesn't last. The guardians start chanting, low and guttural, in a language that's not quite Latin or Greek. It makes your skin crawl like the words are tugging at something inside you. You clutch the scroll tighter, its story of Irene, the rebel goddess, suddenly feeling like a hot potato. You scan the chamber for an exit. There's a door across the room, half hidden behind a tapestry of a serpent swallowing its tail. Another,
Ouroboros, just like the one you saw earlier. The tapestry's edges are frayed, like someone tried to rip it down and gave up. You creep along the wall, staying low, the guardian's chant covering your footsteps.
You pass a shelf stacked with clay tablets, their surfaces etched with symbols that look like star maps. One tablet has a crack running through it, and you swear it's glowing faintly like your crystal. You don't touch it. Last thing you need is another cursed souvenir. You reach the tapestry and slip behind it, the fabric heavy with dust that tickles your nose. The door's unlocked, but its hinges look like they haven't moved since Rome was a republic. You push, and it creaks open, revealing a spiral staircase descending deeper. The guardian's chant falters, and you glance back. One of them is staring right at you, their hood tilted like they're memorizing your face. You don't stick around for introductions. You bolt down the stairs, the scroll tucked under your arm, the crystal humming in your pocket. The air grows colder, the darkness thicker, but you keep going. These guardians aren't just protecting stories, they're hiding something alive, something that wants to stay buried. You stumble down the spiral staircase, the scroll pressed against your chest, its papyrus edges poking your ribs like an impatient elbow. The crystal in your pocket hums, a faint vibration that matches the rhythm of your steps. You're deeper, under the Vatican than ever, chasing forbidden Greek myths in a secret library guarded by cloaked weirdos who probably don't take kindly to snoopers. The air's so cold it bites your lungs and the walls glisten with frost, which is odd for a basement in Rome. Your flashlight's beam wobbles, catching carvings of vines and eyes, too many eyes, watching you descend. You mutter that you're definitely not getting paid enough for this, then remember, you're not getting paid at all. The stairs end in a chamber that feels like stepping into a forgotten temple. Stone columns rise into the dark, their tops swallowed by shadows. Shelves line the walls, stuffed with scrolls and codices, but the real showstopper is a massive bronze statue at the center. A woman with a spear, her face half eroded, but fierce.
Not Athena, not quite. She's got wings, jagged like a dragon's. You're here for the myths, and this room screams stories too wild for the world above. You unroll your scroll, the one about Irene, but it's not her tale anymore.
The text shifts to new myths, ones that make your skin prickle, stories of gods who didn't just rule mortals, but envied them. One myth tells of Aether, a god of light who fell in love with a human poet. He gifted her a lyre that sang truths no one could ignore, but the other gods, jealous, burned her village to ash. The poet's songs, the myth claims, could unravel divine lies, so the gods demanded they be silenced. You picture Aether sulking in some celestial HR meeting, getting chewed out for breaking the no mortal girlfriends rule. The story's vivid, almost alive, and you wonder why it was buried. Historians still argue whether early Christians erased pagan myths to kill rival beliefs or to hide their power. The Edict of Thessalonica in 380 CE, a real decree, made Christianity Rome's only religion, banning pagan worship. These scrolls, they're the rebels that didn't make the cut. You grab another scroll, this one tied with a red thread that's weirdly warm. It's about Nyx, not just the night goddess, but a trickster who wove nightmares to scare mortals away from divine secrets. She taught a cult to dream their way into the gods' realm, a kind of astral hacking that pissed off Olympus. The scroll says the cult's texts were destroyed, or so the gods thought. You're holding one now, and it feels like a middle finger to Zeus. Fringe folks on obscure forums would call this proof of suppressed mysticism, claiming the Vatican's been gatekeeping cosmic cheat codes. You're not sure you buy it, but the words make your head buzz like you're half dreaming already. A quirky detail catches your eye. A doodle on the scroll's margin, a tiny god with a speech bubble saying, "Mortals are annoying." Some ancient scribe was clearly over it. You snort, but the humor fades as you read on. These myths aren't just stories, they're accusations. They paint the gods as petty, scared of humans who got too clever. The church would have hated this, not just for pagan vibes, but for suggesting divinity could be challenged. You spot a codex on a nearby shelf, its cover etched with a sunburst. You reach for it, but a low hum stops you, not your crystal, but the statue. Its eyes glow faintly, or maybe that's your flashlight playing tricks. You step back, heart thumping. The chamber feels smaller now, the columns leaning in like they're listening. You notice a trapdoor under the statue's base, half covered by dust. It's carved with the same winged woman, her spear pointed at a symbol that looks like a broken crown. You kneel, brushing away the dust, and the trapdoor creaks under your touch. It's not locked, but opening it feels like signing a contract you didn't read. You glance at the scrolls, their stories of defiant gods and mortals burning in your mind. These texts were hidden because they dared mortals to question power, divine, human, or otherwise. You tug the trapdoor, and it groans open, revealing
a ladder into darkness. You're going deeper, because apparently you have zero survival instincts.
You climb down the ladder, the trapdoors groan, fading above you like a grumpy ghost. The scrolls still tucked under your arm, its tales of rebel gods itching at your brain. The crystal in your pocket, yep, that moon shard still there, pulses, faintly, sinking with the damp chill of this new tunnel. You're way under the Vatican, in a secret library where Greek myths too wild for the world are locked away. The ladder's rungs are slick, and your flashlight catches weird scratches on the walls. Claw marks, maybe, or just some ancient intern's bad day. You mutter that you'd rather be binge-watching cooking shows, but the stories pull you deeper. The excluded tunnel spits you into a low-ceilinged room, the air thick with the scent of mildew and old leather. Shelves sag under the weight of codices, their covers cracked like drought-starved earth. You spot one that stands out. A thick book, bound in dark hide, its spine stamped with a symbol like a flame inside a cage. You set the scroll down and grab the codex, its weight surprising you. The pages are parchment, inked in Greek, with notes in Latin scrawled in the margins. It's no myth, it's a philosopher's work, a heretic named Callistos who dared to question the gods and the church. In one go, you picture him scribbling this in a cave, probably laughing at how much trouble he'd cause. Callistos's text argues that gods and mortals are cut from the same cloth, imperfect, messy, and prone to bad decisions. He claims the Olympians were just amplified humans, their powers exaggerated by fear and worship. One passage describes a ritual to unmask a god using a mirror and a chant to reveal their true form. It's bold, almost reckless, and you can see why it was buried. Historians still argue whether early philosophers like Pythagoras influenced Christian thought or were silenced for it. The Council of Constantinople in 553 CE, a real event, condemned certain philosophical ideas as heretical, which fits Callistos's vibe. This codex feels like a Molotov cocktail lobbed at both Olympus and Rome. You flip a page, and a quirky detail jumps out. A doodle of a god tripping over his own sandals, captioned in Latin. Even Zeus stubs his toe. You snort, imagining Callistos giggling over his rebellion. But the humor fades as you read on. The codex lists places, caves, islands, ruins, where Callistos claims mortals could find divine sparks, fragments of godlike power. One spot, a cave in Crete, matches rumors you've heard online about hidden shrines. Fringe types swear the Vatican's been hoarding proof of human divinity, though mainstream scholars call it conspiracy nonsense. You're not sure what to believe, but the Codex's words make your fingers tingle, like they're daring you to test them. You notice the room's walls are etched with faint lines, forming a map that mirrors Callistos' list. Crete's there, circled in red chalk that looks fresh, too fresh for a tomb like this. Someone's been here, maybe looking for those sparks. You trace the map, and the crystal in your pocket hums louder, warm against your leg. You pull it out, and it's glowing now, casting a soft light that makes the map's lines shimmer. You're starting to think this crystal isn't just a shiny rock. It's tied to these texts, maybe to Callistos himself. You pocket it again because losing it feels like a worse idea than keeping it. The Codex mentions a price for Callistos' rebellion. He was exiled, his works burned, his name erased. But this copy survived, hidden here, where no one could find it. Or so they thought. You spot a loose page tucked in the back, written in a shakier hand. It's a letter from Callistos addressed to the seeker. He warns that his truths come with a cost. To know the gods is to lose their mercy. Your stomach twists. You're the seeker now. And that's not exactly a job with a 401k. You close the codex. Its weight heavier than before. A faint scrape echoes from the tunnel behind you. Not footsteps, but something dragging, like a sack of bones. You grab the codex and scroll, scanning for an exit. There's a narrow archway at the room's far end, half blocked by a fallen shelf. You squeeze through the codex's flame symbol, glinting in your flashlight's beam. The air shifts, colder, sharper, like the library's warning you to turn back. But Callistos' words burn in your mind. The gods are just like us. You're not sure if that's comforting or terrifying, but you keep moving, deeper into the dark. You push through the narrow archway, the codex and scroll tucked tight under your arm, their weight like a promise you didn't mean to make. The crystal in your pocket, yep, that moon shard still glowing, pulses softly, warming your thigh. As you move, you're deeper than ever under the Vatican, in a secret library stuffed with Greek myths and heretical rants that could have rewritten history. The air's sharp, like breathing in a winter storm, and the tunnel walls are carved, with swirling patterns that look like waves frozen mid-crash. Your flashlight flickers because apparently it's allergic to staying reliable. You mutter that you'd sell your soul for a decent battery, then hope no one's listening. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like a cartographer's fever dream. Shelves are crammed with rolled parchments, and a massive stone table dominates the center, its surface etched with a map so detailed it makes your head spin. Not a modern map. This one's got continents that don't exist, islands swallowed by myth, and rivers that twist like serpents. You lean closer, spotting names in Greek: Hyperborea, Thule, Cryptos. That last one hits you. Remember, Irene's hidden city from the scroll. It's marked here, nestled in a mountain range that doesn't match any geography you know. You're holding maps to realms erased from history, and your inner nerd is screaming. You grab a parchment from a shelf, unrolling it carefully. It's a star chart, but not the kind you'd find in an astronomy textbook. Constellations are drawn as gods and monsters, their lines pulsing with faded gold ink. One star, labeled Irene's beacon, sits in a constellation shaped like a winged woman. The chart claims it points to a lost island where mortals could touch the divine. You picture sailors chasing that star, only to end up with sunburn and no divine Wi-Fi. Historians still argue whether Greek myths encoded
real locations or were just poetic vibes.
The Antikythera mechanism, a real 2nd century BCE device, proved the Greeks mapped the stars with insane precision. Maybe this chart's not as crazy as it seems. A quirky detail catches your eye. A tiny doodle on the map's edge, a ship with a speech bubble saying, "Lost again." Some ancient mapmaker had a rough day. You smirk, but the humor fades as you study the table's map. It's not just pretty, it's functional. Lines converge on spots marked with symbols, a flame,
A spear, a broken crown.
One matches the flame on Callistos' codex, pinpointing that cave in Crete. You pull out the crystal, and its glow intensifies, casting light that makes the map's lines shimmer like liquid silver. You're starting to think this crystal's less a souvenir and more a key. You unroll another parchment, this one brittle and stained with something dark. Ink, you hope. It's a map of the underworld, not the poetic Hades, but a real place with tunnels and rivers labeled in Greek. It claims a gate lies beneath a mountain of tears, guarded by a beast with too many heads to count. Fringe types online would call this proof of hidden realms, maybe even Atlantis or Tartarus. Mainstream scholars would scoff, but you're standing in a room that shouldn't exist, holding a map that feels like it's daring you to follow it. You trace a river labeled Lethe, and your fingers tingle, like the map's trying to forget you. The chamber's walls are carved with scenes that match the maps. Ships sailing toward vanishing islands, mortals kneeling before glowing stars. One carving shows a woman, Irene maybe, holding a crystal like yours, her face serene but fierce. You pocket the star chart, because leaving it feels like betraying the story. The codex's weight reminds you of Callistos' warning. Truth
Has a cost. You're not sure what you're paying yet, but the bill's coming.
A faint hum vibrates through the floor. Not your crystal, but something deeper, like the library's heart is waking up. You spot a door at the chamber's far end, its frame carved with eyes that seem to follow you. It's half ajar, leaking. A draft that smells like salt and iron. You glance back at the map, its impossible places burning in your mind. These aren't just myths, they're directions, and someone hid them to keep mortals from finding the truth. You step toward the door, the crystal's glow lighting your way. Whatever's next, you're too deep to turn back now, even if your gut's screaming that you're walking into a trap. You ease through the eye-carved door, the codex and star chart heavy in your arms, the scroll tucked like a nervous passenger. That crystal in your pocket, still glowing, still humming, feels like it's whispering your name. You're buried under the Vatican in a secret library stuffed with Greek myths and maps to nowhere. The air's thick, sharp with salt and something bitter, like regret. The tunnel's walls are smooth, polished by time or hands, and your flashlight catches faint etchings, hands raised to the sky, mouths open in silent screams. You mutter that you'd rather be arguing with your cat over couch space, But these stories keep dragging you deeper. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like a shrine gone wrong. A stone altar sits in the center, stained dark with something you don't want to name. Shelves line the walls, but they're sparse, holding only a few clay tablets and one leather-bound book. Above the altar, a massive carving looms, a woman with eyes like whirlpools, her hair a tangle of snakes. Not Medusa, something older, rawer. This is the oracle's domain, and you're here for her warning, a prophecy buried for its truth. You approach the altar, and the air hums, not from your crystal, but from the stone itself, like it's holding its breath. You pick up a tablet, its surface etched in Greek, so ancient it looks like it's arguing with itself. It's the oracle's words, spoken at a place called Trophonius, a real Greek cave shrine where seekers went mad or came out changed. The prophecy warns of a fractured sky when mortals steal divine fire, angering gods who'd rather nap than fight. It says the thief, a mortal with starlit blood, will either save the world or burn it. You picture this thief probably tripping over their own ego while juggling cosmic matches. Historians still argue whether oracles were con artists or tapped into something real. The Oracle of Delphi, active from the 8th century BCE, was a real institution, guiding kings and wars. Maybe this prophecy wasn't just hot air. A quirky detail jumps out, a tiny carving on the tablet's edge, a snake with a speech bubble saying, "Prophecies are overrated." Some scribe was clearly over the mystic vibe. You smirk, but the humor fades as you read on. The oracle's warning names a price. Anyone who hears her truth will carry its weight forever. You feel it now, the tablet heavy in your hands, like it's sinking into your bones. Fringe types online would call this a suppressed revelation, proof the Vatican's hiding cosmic spoilers. You're not sold, but the words make your head buzz like you're standing on the edge of a cliff. You set the tablet down and grab the leather book. It's thinner, its pages soft as skin. It's a commentary on the prophecy, written in Greek with Latin notes. The author, unnamed, claims the starlit blood refers to a bloodline tied to Irene's followers. Remember her?
Hidden city cryptos?
The book says the prophecy was buried because it predicted a mortal uprising, one the church couldn't control. You glance at your crystal, its glow steady now, and wonder if you're holding a piece of that bloodline's legacy. The altar hums louder, and you swear the snake-haired woman's eyes flicker like she's sizing you up. The chamber's walls are carved with scenes that match the prophecy. Mortals clutching flames, skies splitting like cheap fabric. One shows a figure holding a crystal, yours, facing a shadowed god. You step back, heart thumping. This isn't just a warning, it's a call to action, and you're not sure you signed up. You notice a crack in the altar, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside is a silver ring, etched with a snake eating its tail. Another Ouroboros, like the one you saw way back. You slip it on because apparently you're collecting cursed jewelry now. It's warm, too warm, and fits like it was made for you. A low rumble shakes the chamber, dust sifting from the ceiling. Not an earthquake, something deliberate, like the library's waking up. You grab the tablet and book, tucking them with your growing stash. A new tunnel yawns at the chamber's far end, its mouth dark and uninviting. The prophecy's weight clings to you, its words about fire and fractured skies looping in your mind. You're not just reading history, you're part of it now, whether you like it or not. You step toward the tunnel, the ring tight on your finger, ready for whatever's next, even if it's a one-way ticket to trouble. You step into the tunnel, the oracle's tablet and book adding to the weight of your growing stash, codex, scroll, star chart, and that humming crystal in your pocket. The ring on your finger with its Ouroboros snake feels like it's watching
you. You're deeper under the Vatican than anyone should be, in a secret library packed with Greek myths too feral for the light of day.
The tunnel's air is heavy, laced with a faint metallic tang like blood or rust. Your flashlight catches jagged carvings on the walls, claws, wings, teeth, creatures that don't belong in any story you know. You mutter that you'd rather be stuck in traffic than playing Indiana Jones, but the library's secrets keep pulling you forward. The tunnel opens into a cavernous chamber, its ceiling a dome of raw stone glittering with quartz, like a sky full of frozen stars. Shelves line the walls, but they're dwarfed by a massive pit in the center, its edges scorched black. You lean over and a cold draft rises, smelling of ash and something alive. This is where the wildest myths live, tales of gods and monsters, too untamed for scripture. You spot a codex on a nearby shelf, its cover carved with a beast that's half lion, half serpent. You grab it, the leather warm under your fingers, and flip it open. The Greek text sings of creatures born from chaos, gods who fought them, and mortals caught in the crossfire. One story tells of Typhaon, not the typhoon monster, but a god beast with 100 heads, each spitting a different curse. He battled Zeus for control of the cosmos, and the fight tore mountains apart. The text claims Typhaon's blood seeped into the earth, birthing creatures that still lurk in forgotten places. You picture him as a cosmic tantrum thrower, probably annoyed his heads couldn't agree on pizza toppings. Historians still argue whether myths like this were metaphors or records of real cataclysms. The eruption of Thera around 1600 BCE, a
real event, reshaped the Aegean and might have inspired tales of divine battles. This codex feels like it's daring you to connect the dots. A quirky detail jumps out, a margin note in Latin, "Beware the pit's breath."
Some monk wasn't thrilled about this place. You glance at the pit, and a faint glow pulses from its depths, like a heartbeat. You step back because pit's breath sounds like a health code violation. Fringe types online would swear this. Pit's a portal to Tartarus or some monster daycare. You're not buying it, but the codex's next tale makes you pause. It's about Echidna, mother of monsters, who hid her children in a womb of stone to protect them from the gods. The text hints that womb is close, maybe too close. You eye the pit again, half expecting a claw to wave hello. You grab another text, a scroll tied with blackened sinew. It's about a god named Phobator, not the dream deity, but a shaper of fears, who crafted beasts to guard divine secrets. One beast, a wolf with eyes of fire, was bound to a place where light drowns. The scroll says its howls can still be heard by those who listen too long. You strain your ears and yeah, there's a faint whine, but it's probably just your flashlight dying, right? The myths here aren't just stories. They're warnings about things that might still be out there, waiting. You tuck the scroll away, its weight heavier than it should be. The chamber's walls are carved with scenes that match the texts. Gods wrestling serpents, mortals fleeing winged horrors. One carving shows a mortal holding a crystal, your crystal, facing a beast with too many mouths. You pull out the crystal, and its glow flares, lighting the carvings like a projector. The ring on your finger tightens, or maybe that's your imagination.
A low rumble shakes the floor, not from the pit, but from the walls, like the chambers closing in. You spot a narrow exit across the room, its frame etched with claws. The myths of Typhaon and Echidna burn in your mind. Gods and monsters fighting.
For control, mortals paying the price. You move toward the exit, the pit's glow flickering behind you like it's daring you to stay. You slip through the claw-etched exit, the codex of monsters and scroll of Phobitor's beasts tucked with your growing horde, Oracle's tablet, star chart, and that first rebellious scroll. The crystal in your pocket pulses like a tiny heartbeat, and the Ouroboros ring on your finger feels heavier, like it's annoyed you're still wearing it. You're deep under the Vatican, in a secret library brimming with Greek myths and truths too dangerous for the world above. The tunnel's air is damp, smelling of earth and something sharp, like burnt herbs. Your flashlight catches glints of mica in the walls, making them shimmer like a dragon's hoard. You mutter that you'd rather be doom-scrolling than dodging. Cosmic curses, but these stories won't let you go. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like a mad scientist's lair, crossed with a temple. Shelves sag with scrolls, but the centerpiece is a stone workbench littered with glass vials, rusted tools, and a leather notebook bound with iron clasps. The air hums, not from your crystal, but from a faint vibration in the walls, like the library's. Got a pulse? You're here for the alchemist's notebook, a text blending Greek myth with forbidden science. You grab it, the leather cool and oddly soft, like it's been handled recently. The pages are filled with Greek script, diagrams of stars and chemical symbols that look like a chemist's fever dream. This is no philosopher's rant, it's a recipe book for rewriting reality. The notebook belongs to an alchemist named Zosimos, not the historical Zosimos of Panopolis, but a heretic who claimed the gods were formulas, not deities. One entry describes distilling Irene's light, remember her starlit cloak, into a liquid that could awaken the soul. The process involves a crystal, yep, like yours, and a chant under a meteor shower. You picture Zosimos in a lab coat muttering about OSHA violations while mixing divine glow juice. Historians still argue whether alchemy was science or mysticism. The real Zosimos, active around 300 CE, wrote texts blending Greek philosophy and chemistry, some preserved in Byzantine libraries. This notebook, though, it's next level, suggesting the gods were equations mortals could hack. A quirky detail jumps out, a doodle in the margin, a beaker with a frowny face labeled failed again. Zosimos had a rough day, apparently. You smirk, but the humor fades as you read on. Another entry describes forging a key to Tartarus, a metal infused with monster blood, typhaeons maybe, to unlock hidden realms. The notebook claims the key was hidden where the serpent eats itself. That Ouroboros again. You glance at your ring, half expecting it to hiss. Fringe types online would lose it over this, calling it proof the Vatican's suppressing alchemical secrets. You're skeptical, but the crystal in your pocket flares, its light tracing the notebook's diagrams like a neon highlighter. You notice a vial on the workbench, half filled with a liquid that glows. Faintly green, it's labeled in Greek, Irene's tears. You don't touch it. Spilling divine juice sounds like a one-way ticket to a bad Yelp review from the gods. The chamber's walls are etched with alchemical symbols, circles, triangles, a serpent swallowing its tail. One carving shows a figure, Zosimos, holding a crystal to the sky, stars raining down. You pull out your crystal, and its glow syncs with the vials, making the workbench hum louder. This isn't just a notebook. It's a manual for playing God, and the Vatican buried it for a reason. You flip to the notebook's final page, a warning in shaky script. To wield the gods' tools is to invite their wrath. Your stomach twists. Zosimos didn't sound like he retired to a beach house. You spot a loose page tucked inside, a map fragment pointing to a forge of stars in the Peloponnese. It matches the star chart you found earlier, and your crystal's glow
Pulses faster like it's excited.
The chamber shakes, dust sifting from the ceiling. Not an earthquake, but something deliberate, like the library's getting impatient. You tuck the notebook with your stash, the vial's glow lingering in your mind. A new tunnel beckons at the chamber's far end, its entrance framed by alchemical symbols. The myths, maps, and now this notebook are building a picture. Mortals who dared to rival the gods and a church that hid their playbook. You step toward the tunnel, the crystal's light guiding you, the ring tight on your finger. Whatever's next, you're too deep to pretend you're just a tourist. The library's secrets are alive and they're starting to feel like they own you. You step into the tunnel, the alchemist's notebook now crammed with your haul, codex, scrolls, star chart, oracle's tablet, and that leather book of prophecies. The crystal in your pocket hums like it's got opinions, and the Ouroboros ring on your finger feels like it's sizing you up. You're deeper under the Vatican than sanity allows, in a secret library stuffed with Greek myths and forbidden knowledge that could have flipped the world upside down. The tunnel's air is stale, thick with the scent of ink and betrayal. Your flashlight catches words scratched into the walls, Greek curses, Latin prayers, like someone was hedging their bets. You mutter that you'd rather be arguing with your Wi-Fi router, but these secrets keep dragging you forward. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like a courtroom for ghosts. Shelves are sparse, holding only a few scrolls and a single stone tablet, its surface cracked but gleaming under your light. The walls are carved with scenes of judgment, gods pointing, mortals kneeling, parchments burning. You're here for the betrayal that hid these texts, the moment someone decided the world couldn't handle the truth. You grab the tablet, its Greek text, sharp and angry, like it's shouting. It tells of a scribe named Lysias, a keeper of myths, who turned traitor. He swore to protect Irene's teachings, remember her star-lit cloak, but sold them to a council of priests for gold and safety. Lysias's story reads like a tragedy. He was Irene's last disciple, tasked with guarding her texts in a hidden library. Not this one, but an older one, maybe in Greece. The tablet claims he loved the stories but feared the gods' wrath. When priests, early Christians, demanded the texts, Lysias handed them over, believing they'd be preserved. Instead, they were buried, and Lysias was erased from history. You picture him pacing, probably stress-eating olives while justifying his choice. Historians still argue whether early Christians destroyed pagan texts or hid them for safekeeping. The burning of the Serapeum in Alexandria in 391 CE, a real event, wiped out countless scrolls. Maybe Lysias's betrayal fed that fire. A quirky detail jumps out, a carving on the tablet's edge, a tiny scroll with a sad face, captioned in Latin, "I trusted them." Lysias, or someone, had regrets. You smirk, but the humor sours as you read on. The tablet names the priests' council, a shadowy group called the Silentium, who vowed to lock away any knowledge that challenged their God. Fringe types online would call this proof of a Vatican conspiracy, claiming the Silentium still exists, pulling strings. You're not sure, but the tablet's weight feels like a grudge, and the chamber's air grows colder like it's judging you for holding it. You grab a scroll from a shelf, its papyrus brittle as guilt. It's Lysias's confession written in his own hand. He describes hiding one text, a map to Irene's city, Cryptos, before the Silentium took everything. He begs forgiveness from the starlit one, saying he kept her crystal safe. Your pocket hums, and you pull out your crystal. its glow flaring like it's answering. The ring on your finger tightens, or maybe that's your nerves. Lysias's betrayal wasn't just a sellout. It was a crack in the dam, letting the church control what truths survived. You tuck the scroll away, its words heavy with his shame. The chamber's carvings shift under your flashlight. Lysias kneeling, priests looming, a crystal glowing in his hand. One scene shows a door sealed with an Ouroboros, your ring's twin. You spot a real door across the room, its frame etched with the same snake. It's half open, leaking a draught that smells of salt and iron. The tablet mentions a final vault where the Silentium hid the last of Irene's truths. Your crystal's glow pulses faster, like it's pointing the way. A low scrape echoes behind you, not footsteps, but something heavy, like stone dragging stone. The library's waking up, and it's not thrilled you're here. You move toward the door, Lysias's betrayal burning in your mind. He thought he was saving himself, but he buried ideas that could have freed mortals from divine chains. The crystal, the ring, the texts, they're all pieces of a puzzle someone didn't want solved. You step through the door, the air sharper, the darkness thicker. Whatever's next, you're carrying Lysias's guilt now, and it's heavier than the tablet in your hands. You step through the Ouroboros carved door, Lysias's tablet and confession scroll, adding to your teetering stack. Codex, star chart, oracle's warning, alchemist's notebook, and those wild monster tales. The crystal in your pocket hums like it's tuning a radio, and the Ouroboros ring on your finger feels like it's whispering secrets. You're so deep under the Vatican you're practically in Narnia, chasing forbidden Greek myths in a library that's more trap than treasure. The tunnel's air is warm, heavy with the scent of wax and starlight. Yeah, starlight, which makes no sense but smells like it fits. Your flashlight catches glimmers on the walls, tiny mirrors embedded in the stone, reflecting your face like a funhouse maze. You mutter that you'd rather be untangling Christmas lights, but the library's got you hooked. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like a cathedral for renegade gods. The ceiling arches high, studded with glowing crystals that pulse like a cosmic heartbeat. A stone circle dominates the floor, its center inlaid with a mosaic of a winged woman, Irene maybe, holding a star. Shelves are scarce, holding only a few clay tablets and a single scroll tied with silver thread. You're here for the starlit ritual, a secret ceremony tied to a forgotten Greek deity. You grab the scroll, its papyrus soft as whispers, and unroll it. The Greek text describes a rite to summon Irene's spirit, using a crystal, a mirror, and a chant under a sky of falling stars. Your crystal flares in your pocket like it's RSVPing. The ritual's steps are precise. Place the crystal in the circle, reflect starlight through a mirror, and chant words that bind the heavens. The scroll claims Irene will appear not as a goddess but as a guide, offering truths the gods tried to bury. You picture her popping up like a divine Zoom call, probably annoyed at being summoned after centuries. Historians still argue whether Greek rituals were symbolic or tapped into real power. The Eleusinian mysteries, real rites, from the 7th century BCE, promised initiates divine insight. Maybe this ritual's a cousin. The scroll's words make your skin tingle, like you're
already halfway through the chant. A quirky detail jumps out, a margin note in Latin. "Don't drop the mirror, idiot."
Some priest wasn't taking chances. You smirk, but the humor fades as you notice the chamber's setup. A bronze mirror, cracked but intact, leans against a shelf. Crystals like yours are embedded in the stone circle, their glow syncing with your own. You pull out your crystal, and the mosaic star pulses like it's waking up. Fringe types online would call this a portal, proof the Vatican's hiding mystic tech. You're skeptical, but the scroll's chant loops in your head, daring you to try. You set the crystal in the circle, and the air hums, warm and electric. You glance at the mirror, your reflection warped, like it's showing someone else's face, Lysias maybe, or Zosimos, their betrayals and dreams haunting you. The scroll warns the ritual's price. To see her is to carry her fire. Your ring tightens, and the chamber's crystals flare brighter, casting shadows that dance like worshippers. You spot a tablet on a shelf. Its Greek text, a warning. Only those with starlit blood can complete the rite without burning. That phrase again, from the oracle's prophecy. You're not sure if you qualify, but the crystal's glow says you're in deep. The mosaic's Irene stares up, her eyes fierce, like she's judging your commitment. A low rumble shakes the chamber, not from the floor but the walls, like the library's holding its breath. You notice a hidden alcove behind the mirror, holding a silver bowl etched with snakes. It's empty, but the scroll mentions tears of the sky as an offering. Maybe that green vial from Zosimos' lab? You don't have it, but your crystal's light feels like enough. The chant's first words slip from your lips, unbidden, and the mirror trembles. You stop, heart pounding. This isn't just a ritual, it's a dare, and the library's watching. You grab the scroll and tablet, tucking them with your stash. A new tunnel yawns at the chamber's edge, its mouth dark but glinting with mirrored light. You step toward it, the ritual's promise burning in your mind, wondering if you're ready to meet Irene or whatever's waiting. You step into the mirrored tunnel, the starlit ritual's scroll and tablet joining your bulging stash. Codex, star chart, oracle's warning, alchemist's notebook, monster tales, and Lysias's guilty confession. The crystal in your pocket pulses like it's got a crush, and the Ouroboros ring on your finger feels like it's judging your life choices. You're deeper under the Vatican than a conspiracy theorist's fever dream in a secret library packed with Greek myths and truths
that could have toppled empires.
The tunnel's air is cool, sharp with the scent of old stone and desperation. Your flashlight bounces off the mirror-lined walls, turning you into a dozen flickering ghosts. You mutter that you'd rather be wrestling with IKEA instructions, but these secrets keep pulling you forward. The tunnel spills into a chamber that feels like a hideout for rebels. The ceiling's low, carved with crude stars, and the walls are scrawled with Greek and Latin graffiti, names, curses, pleas. Shelves are messy, stuffed with loose parchments and broken tablets, like someone packed in a hurry. You're here for the rogue scholars, the ones risking everything to leak these forbidden texts. You grab a parchment, its edges charred, and read a letter in Greek from a scholar named Thalia. She writes of smuggling Irene's teachings, remember, her starlit cloak, to a network of scribes before the Silentium. That shadowy priest council caught her. Her words are fierce, promising the truth will outlive her. Thalia's letter describes a plan: copy the texts, hide them in caves and ruins, and pass their locations to seekers of the spark. You're holding one now, and your crystal hums like it's nodding along. She mentions a meeting gone wrong, where a traitor, Lysias maybe, tipped off the Silentium. Thalia escaped, but her allies didn't. You picture her dodging cloaked priests, probably wishing she'd picked a lessy, stressful hobby like pottery. Historians still argue whether early Christian scribes preserved or destroyed pagan texts. The Codex Sinaiticus, a real 4th century Bible, shows how carefully texts were copied. Maybe Thalia's network used similar skills to save Irene's myths. A quirky detail jumps out: a doodle on the parchment, a quill with a speech bubble saying, "Write faster." Thalia had a sense of humor, even on the run. You smirk, but the humor fades as you grab another parchment. It's a list of hiding spots: Crete, Thera, a valley of shadows, matching the star chart and Zosimos's map. Fringe types online would call this a secret society, maybe tied to the Knights Templar or some proto-Illuminati nonsense. You're not convinced, but the crystal's glow flares when you read Crete, like it's pointing you there. The chamber's graffiti includes a name, Thalia's, scratched out, like someone tried to erase her too. You find a clay tablet. It's Greek text, a manifesto. It claims the scholars weren't just saving stories but fighting a war for mortal.
Minds, the Silentium, it says, wanted one truth, one God, and burned anything that disagreed. The tablet names a leader, the starlit one, who carried Irene's blood, there's that phrase again, from the oracle and ritual. You pull out
your crystal, and its light traces the tablet's words, making them glow. The ring on your finger feels warm, like it's part of this fight. You're not just a snooper anymore. You're holding the scholar's legacy, and it's heavier than the tablet. The chamber's far wall has a crude map, scratched in chalk, showing Thalia's hiding spots. One mark, a star, sits over a cave of echoes in Crete, where she hid a key. Your crystal pulses faster, like it's ready to book a flight. A faint noise, scratching like quills on parchment, comes from the shadows. You spin, flashlights sweeping, but it's just the library's hum, or maybe your nerves. You spot a narrow exit, its frame etched with a single word. Fuge, Latin for flee. Thalia's warning, maybe. The scholar's fight feels alive, their defiance burning in your hands. You tuck the parchments and tablet with your stash, stepping toward the exit. The library's secrets are a torch, and you're carrying it now, whether you're ready or not. You slip through the fuge-etched exit, Thalia's parchments and tablets stuffed into your ever-growing hoard: Codex, Star Chart, Oracle's Warning, Alchemist's Notebook, Monster Tales, Lysias's Confession, and the Ritual Scroll. The Dexa crystal in your pocket hums, like it's auditioning for a choir, and the Ouroboros ring on your finger feels like it's tightening its grip. You're deeper under the Vatican than a mole's daydream, in a secret library packed with Greek myth
and rebel truths that could have sparked a revolution.
The tunnel's air is sharp, smelling of damp stone and old fear. Your flashlight catches scratches on the walls, Greek letters, half-formed, like someone was interrupted mid-curse. You mutter that you'd rather be untangling headphone cords, but these secrets keep dragging you deeper. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like a trap, masquerading as a shrine. The ceiling's low, dripping with stalactites that gleam like wet fangs. A single stone pedestal stands in the center, holding a clay tablet that looks too perfect, its edges sharp as a blade. "You're here for the cursed tablet," said to doom anyone who reads it. You approach, heart thumping, and the air grows heavy like the library's daring you to touch it. The tablet's surface is etched with Greek text, but the words shimmer, shifting under your flashlight like they're alive. It's a warning, not a story, about a mortal who stole a god's name and paid the price. The text names her Clymene, a weaver who wove Irene's starlight, remember that cloak, into a tapestry that spoke divine truths. She learned a god's true name, one so secret even Olympus trembled. The tablet claims she was cursed to wander, her voice stolen, her tapestry burned. Reading her story, it says, binds you to her fate. You picture Clymene muttering about bad career choices while dodging divine hitmen. Historians still argue whether Greek curses were psychological or supernatural. The real curse tablets, like those found in Athens from the 5th century BCE, were inscribed with pleas to harm enemies. Maybe this one's a darker cousin. Your crystal flares like it's warning you to back off. A quirky detail jumps out, a tiny carving on the pedestal, a loom with a speech bubble saying, "Weave carefully." Some scribe had a grim sense of humor. You smirk, but the humor fades as you read on. The tablet's curse isn't just a threat. It's a contract. "Speak my name, carry my silence," it says. Your throat tightens, like the air's already stealing your voice. Fringe types online would call this a Vatican. Cover-up proof they're hiding cursed artifacts to control fate. You're not sold, but the tablet's words crawl under your skin, and the ring on your finger burns, like it's part of the deal. You hesitate, fingers hovering over the tablet. The chamber's walls are carved with scenes of Clymene, weaving, speaking, then mute, her mouth a blank slash. One carving shows her holding a crystal, yours, as a god looms overhead. You pull out your crystal, and its glow syncs with the tablet's shimmer, making the words pulse. The pedestal hums, low and angry, like it's alive. You notice a crack in its base, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside is a thread of silver, glowing faintly, like a piece of Irene's starlight. You grab it, because apparently you're collecting cursed knickknacks now. It's warm, coiling in your palm like a living thing. A sharp crack echoes, not from the pedestal, but the walls, like the chambers closing in. The stalactites drip faster, their water hissing on the floor. You tuck the tablet with your stash, its weight heavier than stone. The curse feels real, like Clymene's silence is already creeping into you. You spot a narrow exit at the chamber's edge, its frame etched with eyes that seem to blink in your light. The tablet's warning loops in your mind. Speak her name.
Lose your voice. You're not sure if you're cursed yet, but the library's not giving you time to think. You step toward the exit, the silver thread pulsing in your hand, the crystal guiding your way. Whatever's next, you're carrying.
Clymene's fate now, and it's not exactly a warm fuzzy. You edge through the eye-etched exit, Clymene's cursed tablet and silver thread, joining your teetering pile, codex, star chart, oracle's warning, alchemist's notebook, monster tales, Lysias's confession, ritual scroll, and Thalia's rebel parchments. The crystal in your pocket hums like it's got a side hustle as a metronome, and the Ouroboros ring on your finger feels like it's debating whether to strangle you. You're so deep under the Vatican, you're practically
neighbors with the Earth's core in a secret library stuffed with Greek myths and truths that could have set the world on fire.
The tunnel's air is thin, sharp with the scent of ozone, like a storm's brewing. Your flashlight catches faint sparks in the walls, quartz maybe, or something weirder. You mutter that you'd rather be arguing with a vending machine, but these secrets keep pulling you deeper. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like a courtroom for truth itself. The ceiling's high, carved with swirling clouds, and the walls are bare, except for a single, massive mural. A woman, Irene, holding a crystal, her face half light, half shadow. Shelves are empty, but a stone table sits in the center, etched, with Greek words, truth or myth. You're here to question whether these secrets are real or Vatican-crafted lies. You set your stash on the table, the cursed tablet's weight making your arms ache. The mural's eyes seem to follow you.
daring you to decide what's true.
You pull out the crystal, its glow steady, like it's waiting for your verdict. You start with Lysias's confession. His betrayal handed Irene's texts to the Silentium, but was he tricked into thinking they'd be saved? You flip through Thalia's parchments. Her network hid copies, but how many survived? The oracle's prophecy of a fractured sky feels too vivid, like it's predicting something real, but oracles were notorious for vague flexes. Zosimos's notebook, with its cosmic recipes, could be genius or madness. Alchemists weren't
Exactly peer-reviewed. Clymene's curse tablet makes your throat itch. But is it magic or just guilt tripping you? You picture the Vatican's priests chuckling, planting fake myths to keep snoopers like you chasing shadows. Historians still
argue whether the Church preserved pagan texts to study them or to control their danger. The donation of Constantine, a real 8th century forgery, shows the Vatican's knack for bending truth. Maybe this library's one big con. A quirky detail jumps out. A scratch on the table, a tiny Greek word, skepsis, meaning doubt. Some scholar was second-guessing everything, just like you. You smirk, but the humor fades as you dig deeper. The star chart's islands don't match modern maps, but the Antikythera mechanism proved the Greeks knew their stars. Could those places exist? The ritual scroll's chant still buzzes in your head, and your crystal's glow synced with the mosaic star. That's hard to fake. Fringe types online would scream, this is proof of a cosmic cover-up, with the Vatican hiding divine tech or alien blueprints. You're not there yet, but the silver thread in your pocket, Clymene's starlight, feels alive, coiling like it's listening. You pace, the mural's half-shadowed face looming. What if the Vatican didn't just hide these texts, but shape them? Irene's rebel myths, Callistos' philosophy, Typhaon's monsters, each challenges power, divine or human. The Silentium could have buried them to kill dissent, or worse, twisted them to scare mortals into submission. Your ring burns, and the crystal's hum grows louder, like it's urging you to choose. You touch the cursed tablet, and a faint whisper, Clymene's voice, echoes in your mind. Truth is what you carry. Your heart skips. This library's secrets feel too raw to be lies, but doubt gnaws at you. Are you a seeker or a pawn? The chamber rumbles, dust sifting from the clouds above. A hidden panel slides open in the mural, revealing a final tunnel, its mouth dark but glinting with faint light, like stars. The table's truth or myth taunts you. You grab your stash, the crystal's glow lighting the mural's face. Irene's, or just a trick? You're not sure what's real, but you've carried these secrets too far to stop. The library's either a tomb of truths or a maze of lies, and you're about to find out which. You step toward the tunnel, the silver thread, warm in your hand, doubt and defiance warring in your chest. You step into the star-glinting tunnel, your hoard of secrets, codex, star chart, oracle's warning, alchemist's notebook, monster tales, Lysias's confession, ritual scroll, Thalia's parchments, Clymene's cursed tablet, and that glowing silver thread, feeling like a library strapped to your chest. The crystal in your pocket pulses like it's counting down, and the Ouroboros ring on your finger hums, warm as a whispered promise. You're deeper under the Vatican than myths themselves, in a secret library that's either humanity's lost truth or its greatest lie. The tunnel's air is soft, heavy with the scent of ancient stone and fading starlight. Your flashlight dims, but the crystal's glow lights your way, casting shadows that dance like ghosts. You mutter that you'd rather be napping through.
A rom-com, but this final vault calls you forward. The tunnel opens into a chamber that feels like the heart of the world. The ceiling arches into a dome, carved with constellations that shimmer faintly as if the stars are breathing. A single
Stone door dominates the far wall, sealed with an Ouroboros larger than your arm, its snake eyes glinting like they see you. Shelves are gone. The floor is bare except for a circular mosaic in the center, depicting Irene, her wings wide, her crystal raised, her face serene but fierce. You're here for the final seal, the last barrier to the library's deepest truths. You set your stash down, the cursed tablet's weight making your hands tremble. The crystal's hum fills the air, and the ring burns like it's ready to open something or end it. You approach the door, the Ouroboros carving pulsing in time with your crystal. The mosaic's Irene seems to watch, her eyes catching the light. You pull out the silver thread, Clymeni's starlight, and it glows, coiling in your palm like a living spark. The door has no lock, just a slot shaped like a star. You hesitate, remembering the oracle's starlit blood and Thalia's seekers of the spark.
Is this you? The crystal's light flares and the thread hums, urging you to try. You press the thread into the slot, and it fits, dissolving into a burst of light that makes the Ouroboros glow. The door rumbles, stone grinding stone, and cracks.
Open, revealing a void so dark it swallows your flashlight's beam. You step closer, heart pounding. The air beyond the door feels alive, warm, like it's waiting. You grab the ritual scroll, its chant looping in your mind. The words slip out, soft at first, then stronger, and the mosaic's crystals flare, lighting the chamber like a dawn. You're not just opening a door, you're finishing what Irene, Callistos, Thalia, and Clymene started. Historians still argue whether myths were stories or coded truths. The real Library of Alexandria burned in 48 BCE, lost texts that might have confirmed this vault's secrets. Maybe you're standing in its shadow. The door widens and a faint voice, Irene's, whispers, "Carry the fire." Your throat tightens, Clymene's curse tingling, but you keep chanting, the ring scorching your finger. A quirky detail jumps out. A tiny scratch on the mosaic, a Greek word, isodos, meaning entrance. Someone marked this as the endgame. You smirk, but the humor fades as the door fully opens. Beyond it, a chamber glimmers, its walls lined with crystals that pulse like heartbeats. You spot shapes, scrolls, tablets, maybe more. But they're faint, like dreams you can't hold. Fringe types would call this the Vatican's Holy Grail, a vault of divine knowledge. You're not sure, but the crystal's glow pulls you forward, and the silver thread's light lingers in your hand, like it's part of you now. You step through, the air soft, warm, wrapping you like a lullaby. The chamber's truths feel close, but your eyes grow heavy, the library's hum blending with your pulse. You clutch the crystal, its light fading to a gentle glow. The stories, Irene's rebellion, Callistos' defiance, Thalia's fight, Clymene's curse, swirl in your mind, not as myths, but as sparks you've carried. The vault's secrets are yours now, whether truth or lie, and they're heavy but soft, like a blanket of stars. The air grows softer now, the chamber's glow dimming to a whisper of light. You feel the weight of the stories settle, not as a burden, but as a quiet gift, tucked into the corners of your mind. The crystal's hum slows, matching the rhythm of your breath, each pulse a gentle nudge toward rest. The library's walls fade, their carvings blurring into shadows that cradle you safe and still. You're no longer underground, but floating, wrapped in a sky of endless stars, Irene's cloak draped over you. Her voice, if it was hers, lingers, a murmur of fire, of truth, of dreams. Let the secrets rest for now, held close, like a book. You'll open again, your eyes drift shut, the hum a lullaby, the stars a promise. Sleep, seeker, and carry the spark into your dreams.